They were everywhere. You could see them on all our cream windowsills, everything.
Hey, I'm Brent, the owner of Local Bug Guide. Today we're going to talk about Haley's story. What's interesting about this story is that Haley had clover mites and she had multiple companies come through and they just weren't able to get them under control. And she's super excited because we got rid of them. So it's been a few years since I experienced this story because I was actually the technician at the time. I don't remember a lot of the details, so I'm interested myself to dig in and see what she has to say.
Okay, so I'm Haley from Springville. When we moved in here, we laid sod down. That was in the summer of 2021. Come spring of 2022 rolls around and I am pregnant, I started seeing clover mites. We did not even know what they were. They were coming in from our back door. They were coming in from all our windows. They were everywhere. You could see them on all our.
So it's just kind of how life goes, right? She was pregnant. It was a new house. Everything was crazy. I think that's pretty normal. When it comes to clover mites, if you don't know what they are, thank goodness, because there are thousands of them and they are tiny. And then when you try to clean them up, it makes a bigger mess because they leave like this red dye, like this reddish orangish dye as you clean them up. So they cover everything. So that's got to be super stressful for her to have to deal with that.
And we had to Google and actually ask our company that we were using at that time to do pest control when we first moved in what these bugs were and let us know that they were clover mites. We had 2 different companies come in. I hired 2 different ones to try to kill off these clover mites. Didn't succeed, didn't really help with it. They're very impersonal. Every time I called, it took about a week to come back out, sometimes longer. They'd just come out and spray. I don't even really know what they would actually do.
So she said every time she called, it would take about a week for them to come out. That's just crazy to me because when I started Local Bug Guy, it was just me and a phone and a truck. And if somebody called and said I need help, like sometimes I would not be able to really sleep good because I'm like, this person needs help. How can you put someone off for a week? It's just crazy to me. I remember when I first went there, she told me about how bad the problem was and how multiple companies had tried. And I remember thinking, well, clover mites are really hard. I'm not like super confident that I can get this under control, but I care. And I remember talking about some of the stuff that I knew about them and sharing those details and encouraging her to do some things she could, like minimize moisture to help out. And I remember just kind of even thinking like, hey, I'm going to do my best, but if it doesn't work, like I'm not going to hold you to any contract. And it worked really good. I think I just would show up quick and then I came back multiple times and she did her part too. Like I said, at first it was just me and it was really hard to choose to grow. I knew that if I grew, I would make less money for at least a couple years. But the hardest thing was, if I hire a technician, is that technician going to care? If I hire a technician, are these customers going to expect somebody to care? And are they just going to get an impersonal experience where they don't care at all? So I remember there was this turning point where in my mind I said, I cannot grow if things get worse. I just want a service that I would want to pay for. And that means a technician cares, he knows what he's doing, but mostly he cares because if he cares, he'll figure it out. If he knows what he's doing, but he doesn't care, he'll just like put people off. So once I resolved in my head that if I hire a technician who cares and then I allow them to care by not intervening all the time, then a customer and a technician could have that experience where the customer almost feels like he's the owner and the technician or the customer and the technician can have this experience where the customer almost feels like they're working with the owner. In fact, sometimes they do. They're like, are you the owner? To somebody who's like a new technician. Why? Because he cares. And that's so rare unless you're the owner. And then the technician almost feels like these are my customers. This is my business. And so that's one of the keys that really that really I noticed from her story is she said she'd call the company and they'd take forever and they didn't care. It was impersonal. I think those things go together.
Back out, sometimes longer. They'd just come out and spray. I don't even really know what they would actually do. They didn't explain it. They didn't.
So she says the company would just come out and spray. I don't know what they actually even did. Here's the thing. The technician probably didn't know what he was doing. He was probably it was just something on his day, and he pulled up, and when he pulled up, it said clover mites, and they're like, well, I guess I'll do the same thing I do at every house. She would probably talk to an office person who had a list of rules and bosses who would make sure that they didn't overpromise anything. And then they would put it on the schedule, and a random technician would show up, and the random technician would just be another stop on their day. And so, and here's what's frustrating to me is that person at that company that answered the phone wants to care. The technician who showed up and didn't care, they want to care, but they are taught again and again, if you care, you're going to get in trouble. Maybe not yelled at directly, but you'll be told, hey, why did you take so long at that stop? Well, you got to finish these stops. Hey, why did you do that? And they have to justify the fact that they care. And sometimes they just got to pay their bills and it turns into a job. But most people don't want a job. Most people want something they're passionate about. And most companies beat that out of people, not just pest control companies. And so I think we get a lot of credit for creating caring and compassion and passion. We don't create any of that. We just don't beat it out of people.
They just came out and did their thing and left. They didn't try to go into detail with anything. So we did that for that year of 2022. 2023 rolls around and I have an infant, and the springtime comes back and we have our infestation. At this point, I know it's clover mites. I call my aunt, hysterical, say, I cannot do this. They are everywhere. I have a brand new baby. They're crawling all over all of her bottles, all of the sanitary stuff. Like, what do I do? She offers and tells me to call the local bug guy, who I had found out at that time also did my dad's house.
Her aunt was more confident than I was that I'd take care of the problem, because I'm worried about all the things that could go wrong and I don't want to overpromise. But the aunt's like, I trust this guy. He takes good care of me. He takes good care of my brother. Mike was a customer. He ended up getting cancer and getting sick and ended up dying. His sister Nan took care of Mike in his home as he was dying. And we were able to take care of her, and then her niece, and then a few other family members. Even though local bug guy is you know, like a multi-million-dollar company, even though we've been around for 16 years, we've beat a lot of odds. We're kind of, it feels like we haven't done anything, but we're kind of, you know, top percentage in a lot of those statistics. I still enjoy, just when I can, just getting in the truck and helping customers. I'd rather look a customer in the eye than sit in front of a spreadsheet. I don't mind making decisions, especially if it helps customers and helps technicians, but I'd rather just help somebody. And so I like getting in the truck and helping customers. And as I do that, it opens up this human element of connection, where I can think a lot of times that customers feel more like neighbors than neighbors that I've been next to, because for some reason there's something vulnerable about they're dealing with their fears and I'm going in trying to be helpful. And there's just this connection where a lot of times I would feel more comfortable asking my customers to borrow tools or to help them with something last minute, whether it has to do with bugs or not, just because we've had that sort of a connection. So I'm excited that we have multiple technicians who a lot of them have that relationship with their customers too.
So I reached out to him, which was Brent, and he got right back with me within minutes of texting him. He actually came out that day to look at my house, look at the bugs, because they were clear as day.
So yeah, similar part of what I remember of that is she described the situation and I listened and I cared. And instead of being like, we're clover mite experts, and seeing that as a sales opportunity to capitalize on and to, whatever she said, use that to get her to say yes, I saw that as like, I want to make sure I can even help her before I take any money. So I drove out there and assessed the situation. And then I was like, I think I can probably help. Sounds like they didn't try too hard. So I don't want to give you too much of an expectation, but I think I can help.
He was upfront, he was honest, he was genuine, he understood as a new mom that I was stressed out about having all of these and that they were crawling on stuff that was out of my control. And he kind of just took over from there and started spraying. He gave me different options of what I could do. We had a bunch of weeds in the back. He told me try to have them pulled to see if that would help.
I think a lot of companies love to make it sound like they're really good. They have really good sales people, and then the service doesn't always live up to it. In fact, I think sometimes the better the sales pitch, the worse the service. Myself personally, and I think and I hope that it's transferred to the technicians. I think from customer feedback, it is. We're careful to try to not overpromise, but if a customer needs us, we want to be there for them. If we can show up same day, we will. But sometimes that's complicated. Either it's inconvenient for the customer if we show up too quick, or the technician has to replan his entire day. So I think we usually will show up next day, and we try to actually plan on making sure that happens. One, by charging enough to where the technician can slow down a little bit. Two, by having the technician cover like a city or two instead of a county or two. Those little things make a big difference. And sometimes it actually upsets potential customers. They're like, hey, I'm only 10 minutes away. And we're like, I know, but if you need something, we need to show up. And if we're showing up for you and we're driving, that's half hour out of our day. And that might make it so we can't show up for the customers that are right in our service area. So we sometimes upset people by not taking their money, but that's just so that we can basically show up next day, if not same day, when somebody does need us. So that's something that's pretty important, as well as just the personal feeling of every technician. We don't beat out of them the fact that they naturally care. We allow them to continue to care, and they don't get in trouble for doing things that might be a little bit worse business-wise, but it's really good at just caring and showing up.
I was right back out that day. The next day, I knew he was going out of his way to come here just because of the time and the random text out of nowhere.
So she said, I knew he was going out of his way to come here. She's completely right, but not in the way that she thinks. Meaning that we went out of our way to be able to show up same day or next day by saying no to a lot of people who wanted us to drive out of the way. So that when she needed me, or when she needs Nate or future technicians in the future, it's not really that far out of the way. Like, we plan it so that no matter what happens, it's not super inconvenient to us to make it super convenient for the customer. I'd worked at other companies, and they didn't care as much to show up next day. They cared more about, hey, our door-to-door salespeople need to succeed. So if they want to go knock doors 45 minutes away because they have good luck there and they have a good day or a good week, that's great. Even though that means that their routes are spread all over the place, and then even more so because technician has to drive really far for this one little neighborhood every once in a while. But the salespeople are happy, so the company's happy. And so the other issue that I saw at companies that I worked at is that they would, even though it was so spread out, they'd still be able to show up pretty quickly because they would sacrifice something even more important, which was the direct relationship with the customer and the technician. They would send a random tech, and they'd show up a little bit quicker. At Local Bug Guy, we try to send the same tech and show up quicker, even though it's harder to show up quicker with the same tech. So the way that we can get the same tech and show up quick, which it's kind of like you do one or the other. We're not willing to do that. We have to do both, is by having the technician cover a small area, and over time that area is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, so that it becomes more and more convenient for the technician to make it more and more convenient for the customer. And that's just a long-term strategy and a long-term play. And so whether it's convenient or not, the technician knows that he needs to care and show up quickly, but over time we make it more convenient for the technician to make it more convenient for the customer.
Where he was just very, very good with being very concerned for me and concerned for what I was worried about with my house. He's just very genuine. I was just very, very happy. Since he has been coming and spraying, so that's been since 2023, just the bugs in general have went down completely, but the clover mites are very minimal. So the stuff he has told me to do on top of what he has done has been wonderful. Not to mention when, if he has not come out, he sends a different person out, and it's always the same person who comes out and sprays for us.
It's always interesting to me as well that a consistent feedback we get from customers is, since I've had local bug guy, I have so many less bugs. And that has confused me, because if you care and you mix it and you spray it, it works. Like, it's not like we're doing anything like earth-shattering. We didn't invent some kind of chemical that the scientists at Bayer and BASF didn't invent. We're just buying similar stuff, but maybe it's just the fact that we care and we know that we're the same guy, so we don't want to be embarrassed and we actually want to do a good job. I don't know how so many customers tell us that we're doing so much better at killing the bugs, because if you know the basics, you just do it and it actually works, you know?
Explain what's going to happen, and then they go over what they've taken care of after they've left, and I am left happy with no issues or problems.
Yeah, so Nate is now her guy, and she was talking about Nate showing up, and when he leaves, lets her know what he found, what he did, what she can expect. That's the format he uses. He's a lot better at that than I ever was. This summer I'm going to be a tech, and I'm going to re-practice that and try to be like Nate. But it's just cool that she appreciates the caring and the communication. That means a lot to me, and I care a lot that the technician has a good experience. A big part of the technician's experience is that the customer appreciates them. And so they are kind of digging for compliments by just caring, and then the customer reciprocates because they can't help themselves. And so that helps technician and customer have a relationship and appreciation for each other. So that was really cool to relive that story. It's been 4 years, I think, since I showed up nervous about whether I could help her, and then thankfully helped her out a ton. I picked up that she said that local bug guy, starting with me, but local bug guy did so much better at getting rid of the bugs. We did so much better at showing up next day or same day instead of next week or after or longer than that. I think what really made all of those things happen is the other thing that she said. We just cared. And so because we cared, we made it a priority, and we listened to her, and we showed up quickly, and we tried a little harder. And so I think that's just another story about local bug guy caring. And I think that's what I'm the most proud of, is that when we hire a technician, we don't beat that out of him. We don't say, you can't be a human here. You have to be a robot. You have to be efficient. If the technician has to be efficient, it's not so that they can make more money for the company. It's so that they can be more efficient, so they have more time and energy to care more. It all comes back to, let's not beat that caring out of the technician. Customers appreciate that, and then the technician gets the benefit of it. So I think that's a story of caring. And if you like this story, if you enjoyed it, if you want more stories like this, tell us down in the comments. I would love to share these stories. As long as somebody cares about them, I'll tell more of them.